Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Beer and Freaks. You may have heard me call this podcast Beer and Horrors before. I think I've changed the name for several reasons. I got a lot of negative feedback on Beer and Horrors because when you say it fast, it sounds like beer and something else, which was sort of the joke, but apparently a lot of people didn't find humor in it, which I understand. So
I love it.
Yeah, it's fun. But feedback noted. We are now Beer Freaks. Sorry, still getting used to it. Still getting used to Beer Freaks, which I actually, to be fair, I like more. I like Beer Freaks. I think it's cool. I think it's got a good double meaning with the things that scare us and with beer, obviously. So today I have an awesome guest, a lady that I have not seen in a while. I've seen her briefly, but she's been traveling abroad. She's quite the world traveler. Just got back from the Peace Corps. Big outdoor enthusiast, major hiker, climber, all around awesome person. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Marie.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Hi, my name is Stu Hawk, and this is my podcast about all the weird, crazy, spooky things that scare me and my guests, and the one thing that helps us forget all about them. Ladies and gentlemen, Beer Freaks. Dun, dun, dun.
Thanks, Stu.
And we're live. Marie, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. When you told me you had this podcast going on, I secretly wanted you to ask me, but I wasn't going to ask.
I was always going to ask you.
Yes.
You live cool. Like, you've lived a cool life. Like you just got back from the Peace Corps from West Africa.
Try, dude.
No, you didn't. Okay, you didn't try. You did it.
I'm going to try to have like a cool life. I think the thing that inspires me to do, take any action in my life is like, will this be a cool story afterwards?
I think that's a fair way to look at life.
Yeah.
There's a cool story even that you can tell yourself. If you can entertain yourself with your own story, that's the mark of a true life well lived. I think.
Who cares what anyone else thinks? If I was amused, it was cool.
I think it's like with like old people when they start repeating their stories and you're like, Grandpa, I've heard you tell this story 30 times.
Yeah.
But you know what? He doesn't give a shit that he's told you that story 30 times because he enjoys that story.
I hope I don't do that though.
Everyone does that. I'm only in my early 30s and I can already tell like I'm doing that, which I guess probably means I'm not creating enough good news stories now.
Yeah, the worst is when someone is like, yeah, I've heard you say this before. I'm like, shit.
I hate that. But you know, when you're married, so like my wife and I, you know, I've heard her tell certain stories a million times, and I know for a fact she's heard me tell people certain stories a million times. But you're around each other, so you have to tell these stories.
Yeah.
So it's like one of the things that they don't talk about when you're about to get married. It's like you're going to hear this person tell the same story a million times.
I'd be curious to hear if like the story ever evolves as you're watching this person tell that story. I'm like, that detail wasn't there the first time. We're just embellishing now.
Well, I think psychology would tell us that it probably does evolve.
Yeah.
Like,
especially with memory over time.
Oh my God.
Like, not sure.
Well, that's that. Like, do you remember Brian Williams? He's like a reporter for NBC.
Yeah.
And he got like in a ton of shit because he said that I think it was Iraq or Afghanistan, I forget which one, but he said that he was in like a helicopter that got shot down.
Yeah.
After 5 years, like later, but when the story originally broke, he wasn't in the helicopter that got shot down. He was in one of the helicopters in the fleet.
Yeah.
But you know,
he misremembered.
He misremembered. Like, I don't know that I fully believe it. Like, I don't know. He's a reporter. He could be sensationalizing it, but psychology could actually say, like, look, this guy, he truly did believe when he was saying that story that he was in it. It evolves over time.
I think I watched a video online too that analyzed like comedians stealing jokes from other people, and it was giving them the benefit of the doubt that sometimes we watch something and it takes it makes such an impression on us that later we think of something that develops from that, and we don't realize how close the original thing that we basically copied it from, but like your brain thinks that was your original thought, your own original idea, but you don't intend to plagiarize.
Right. And I think that there's probably a lot of truth to that, because the reality is there's nothing that's totally novel.
Yeah.
Right. Like you could never say that you totally, I don't know, a comedian might kill me for saying this, but like you can never say that a joke is truly original because it's probably just an evolution of another joke.
Yeah.
You know, like there was a Simpsons and Family Guy episode where they had a crossover. Did you ever see that one?
Yeah.
It was interesting because basically they actually poked fun at themselves, and they said like the Family Guy, they went to court over the Family Guy beer of choice of Peter Griffin, the main character, is Pawtucket Patriot Ale. And then Springfield in Simpsons land is obviously it's Duff. Like everyone knows the Duff beer. And so they use that as sort of a juxtaposition to look at this issue of like Family Guy is just basically a copy of The Simpsons. Yeah. And then the judge turned out to be Fred Flintstone. And then it was like, well, we just find that you're all just a copy of this sort of. So like, I guess my point is, if you really get granular, it's really hard to find novelty. Like there's nothing that's totally new.
Yeah. With that Family Guy Simpsons anecdote, what a great lead into cracking open this beer.
I know, jeez. So by the way, I just want to set a little precedent. Like Marie and I may need to take a couple of breaks because we're in my new podcast booth, which is not quite finished yet. So you may hear a bit of an echo. I'm hoping that goes away within the next couple of weeks, but it is hot as fuck in here. Like I kind
think
of
it
wish
just
that
gets us thirstier, so I'm down.
It works, so we need to crack this beer. So you brought a couple of beers, and so explain the ones that we're about to start with.
So I actually really love languages, but I might mess this up. I think this is pronounced Stiegl, and it's a Radler, which essentially is a fruit soda and beer mixed together. But this one is a Radler Grapefruit, and I'm pretty sure I had my first taste of it when I was in Portland day drinking.
Oh, jeez.
And it was just so delicious. Someone poured it for me, didn't know what it was, had to know what it was, found it in Vegas and have bought it since. And it's a little taller than the regular can this is a 16.9 fluid ounce. What's the regular can, like 12?
Yeah, like 12. Yeah.
So
this is like a pint, a little over a pint.
Yeah. So we either got to drink this fast or it'll get warm.
Yeah. So I'm also going to call out one other thing. And this is by no means, just totally, but I noticed that it does not contain, it says contains no more than 3.2% alcohol by weight.
No way.
So this is a low octane beer.
Shit.
So, which is fine.
No, it's not. It's delicious,
It means we just need to drink it fast.
Yes.
And that'll be our first break, is when we go in and grab the next
Well, let's be real. We did have a pre-podcast beer, so we've already started.
I've had a few.
Okay, then we're good. We're fine.
Yeah.
There was you know what? I think there's something to say. We're both marketing nerds.
Yeah.
So I would love to comment on branding also.
Okay.
They say never judge a book by its cover. I completely judge books by their cover.
A cover makes a big difference.
Yeah.
There's a lot of books out there. I can't read all of them.
This is just a very pretty, like orange, it's a grapefruit, but the color of it is orange. It kind of reminds me of like a Japan's like country of the
rising sun. Yeah, it does look a little bit like a rising sun flag.
And it's just so inviting, and it says "Drink me in the summer," or in a hot podcast room.
In a fucking hot podcast room. Yes. Okay, so let's crack these beasts because it's hot.
We didn't synchronize that.
We're close. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers to fears.
Cheers to fears. Okay, so before, go ahead.
No, I want to say something.
What do you want to say?
It's the most.
That was important. You were like excited about
Before
it.
we get into fears, I think it's the dumbest but realist and most relatable fear. You mentioned to me that I had to leave my phone outside because of radio frequencies or whatever in here, and I thought, I can't be attached to my phone. Let's be real. Like in this day and age, Maybe a real fear, a real stupid fear is just being without a phone for X amount of time. It could even be like a longer time, like when I'm traveling. Like if I were ever without a phone for 24 hours, that would be scary. The dumbest thing is when I do leave my phone behind for maybe like 15 hours at home. I'm gone all day. I come back to check. No one's called me. No one cares.
Oh, jeez.
But like...
It's like one of those nightmares, just like, doing a presentation in front of your class and your clothes are off. So this is... You didn't have your phone for a while, and you came back, and there was nothing there. Mm-hmm. So, like, you didn't even miss anything.
Yeah, of all the fears around the world, like snakes and stuff, like, that's actually just, like, a real dumb one, but I feel it for sure. Like,
well, that's social implications. Like, that's, there's reality to that.
Let's dissect this.
Because we're talking about just, like it sounds stupid because it's just technology and text messaging, but, like, the fear is rooted in FOMO? In a deeply social FOMO, yes.
It's rooted in FOMO?
FOMO is, I think, a psychology term now. Yeah. I think it's true.
It has to, yeah.
I think it's fair. It's probably made its way into the dictionary by now.
Honestly.
This is good. So we got to talk about the beer.
Oh, yes.
Or the half beer.
Wow.
I'm not trying to be a dick.
No.
But it is good. I mean, it's refreshing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like what it sounds. It's half fruit soda, half beer. It definitely feels like a summer drink.
Oh, yeah.
It goes
all day.
It goes down easy. I just thought it was because it was delicious, but because it is low, don't judge me. I drink some 9% IPAs.
You just drank a 7% IPA before we started the show.
Oh, is that what you gave me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beast. It'll get you. It'll get you quick. So that's the problem with IPAs.
I wish I knew the origin of. I mean, it says Salzburg. Oh, Austria. Duh.
Austria since 14. What did it say? Since 1492. Wait. They've been private since Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
You must be a history buff. I'm terrible with dates. I can tell you about...
But that's the rhyme. Like, that's the only reason I know that.
Oh, okay.
1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Yeah, it's the only reason I know your gate code, too, is it's attached to...
And actually, it was 1492 before it was the current one.
Oh, well, that's when I think Pennsylvania wrote their constitution. It was 1770.
It was... Independence.
Yeah.
That was not Pennsylvania, like the whole country.
Yeah. I was like,
the 13 states at that time.
Maybe I won't tell the gate code to Stu's home.
Well, we said it.
Wait a minute.
I mean, we said it without saying it because I just said it's basically when the Declaration of Independence was written. So
yeah, I stopped myself. So.
It's a very patriotic community, apparently. But they don't know where to put the hashtag. They don't know where that goes. There's like 7 of them.
Yeah. Well, what do you have to comment on my half beer?
So look, what do you think? What's the temperature in here? 105.
Maybe, I guess so, because I was hiking today and someone said that it was probably 96, and this feels warmer. But there's
no airflow. That's part of the problem too.
I wonder if it's my experience in Senegal that has me completely like fine in here.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
You're doing better than me, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely used to some heat now.
Yeah, no doubt. Like, you were just in the middle of like a burning, on fire country with humidity.
Yeah, humidity during the rainy season, but we have a dry season, and I mean, I had a fan, but it just feels like a blow dryer in your face. So
like, it's not helping. It's sort of just probably making it worse.
Yeah, I mean, I can liken like stepping out from the airplane onto Senegal, like if you open your oven and that like heat just hits your face. But imagine that just surrounding you at all times.
But that's Vegas too, though, isn't it? Or is it worse than Vegas?
Well, I think with Vegas is like you have the choice of like going from your air-conditioned home to your air-conditioned car to your air-conditioned office and then back. Okay, fair. But then to have it all day and have no reprieve from it.
I guess maddening. I spend probably less than 10% of my time outdoors in the summertime.
Yeah,
like you avoid it like the plague. And so that's a good point. I mean, in Senegal, how many places are air conditioned that you're going? Like,
none.
Zero. Like, is it 0%?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ! So you can't escape. Like, you're just always hot.
It's just hot, and you're constantly sweating. You've got beads of sweat just dripping, and I wondered how I would survive, but how you survive is you just exist. Like, you have no choice. Where's there to go? You just kind of like sit there and go, this is my new real reality.
How long did it like take you to get used to that? Like, is it like a couple of days?
You know, I don't think you ever get used to it, because with my host family, they're constantly complaining about the heat. And it's like, I mean, there's a lot of small talk that goes on in Senegal. There's actually a routine, like a set, like when you greet people, there's, it's almost like question and answer. Like, it's just rote memory. You just do it. It's part of the tradition, it's part of the conversation. And I feel like when things get quiet, people just go like, so that heat, that sun. And I reflected on this and was like, you know, if they've lived it here their whole life, and my host dad is like 60 something years old and he's still talking about the heat, nobody gets used to it.
You never get used to it.
You're just miserable. Yeah.
Is there a cold season?
No, like the rainy season brings in like, so it rains and it's cool then, but then when it stops raining, it's just muggy and warm still. And during the daytime, it's still warm, but in the evening, it's cool. But it's just very short. It's like a few hours, but sure enough, in the morning again, even though it's rainy season and you know it's going to rain later on in the day, it's just hot.
It's still just hot.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So
hot.
Dakar, the capital, is right on the coast, and they have different temperatures, and people are definitely much more comfortable there. But I was 12 hours inland by car, and yeah,
12 hours.
Yeah, basically Dakar is the only part of Senegal that people feel a little cool in. Everywhere it's just hot, like a rainforest in the south. And
good Lord. I don't think I would get used to it. I don't think I could ever just actually get used to that temperature.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
And yet here we are sitting in a podcast booth when we're literally 5 feet away from my air-conditioned house, which, you know, we're actively choosing to do this.
Yeah.
So
it's a cool project.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was the booth looks awesome. I should say it's coming together. It's still got a long way to go, and I think from a functionality standpoint, like I said, I think it's still going to sound a little echoey.
Yeah. So you have some art in here that will actually link into an anecdote I have later about Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh shit! So I have two side points that I want to get to before we talk about your experience with Neil, because I'm so jealous. So first, I actually have Neil's book over there in the corner because I just finished it.
Oh no!
Astrophysics for People in a Hurry.
Yeah, you should have given it to me. I could have gotten it. Yeah.
Oh fuck!
I had no idea.
I am a huge. Well,
he would sign it in calligraphy.
What was he here for?
So he's a member of the Defense Innovation Board, and the people that are on this are like Caltech professors, the VP of Wireless Information, I think, from Google. Some really like high level people. But the Defense Innovation Board, I think, has like 15 to 20 members, and they consult with the Air Force and military to keep people safe. So the job I work at right now, we work with the Air Force to help them innovate faster. Where
you work a lot with like Nellis up north, or just the Air Force in general?
The Air Force in general. The AFWorks where I work is actually based out of DC, the Pentagon, and then there's a hub in Austin, a hub in Vegas. And their goal is to connect people and resources across academia, military, government, and private sector investors and entrepreneurs to help the Air Force like find solutions to their biggest challenges and help them innovate faster. So rather than trying to like innovate and just solve problems within government and military, they're like, let's talk to everyone outside who has knowledge. So we host a lot of events, but Defense Innovation Board came to town and they visited Nellis afterwards. So I got really excited when I saw Neil was on that list. And he did want to go on a first name basis, so he is Neil, not Dr. Tyson.
Not Dr. Tyson.
No.
Not DeGrasse.
No, yeah. He was cool.
That's
so down.
I'm so jealous. Like that guy is just, he's a genius. I listen to his podcast. I read his books. He was even on Joe Rogan the other day, which was pretty cool because, so I will say one thing about Neil that I noticed, which is and I don't know, did you notice this in person at all? He talks over people a lot.
So I excused myself during their meeting and was running another event. So I didn't stay in the room. But when I interacted with him, he does love to talk. And he was on a schedule and he had to leave. And I was fascinated, obviously, by what he was talking about with me. But I could not interrupt him too.
Yeah. He was just going.
Yeah.
He doesn't stop. He doesn't stop. And I even got to a point where I was feeling a little bit bad for Joe Rogan in his own podcast because Joe couldn't even get a question in. He would be halfway through a question and then Neil would go back to the last question and provide additional points to and it's yes, you deserve a ton of respect because you're one of the most brilliant astrophysicists in the world. And you're an incredible personality and you're likable and you're amazing. And so this, again, I'm a huge Neil fan. So I don't want this to take away from any, but it's Neil, relax a little bit. You got to let people talk.
Yeah, I get that. But I think aren't those things attached to geniuses, just quirks?
Well, it almost makes you think is he slightly autistic? I don't think so because he doesn't seem to have a lot of, but he does seem to miss a bit of those social cues. He doesn't let people jump in. He doesn't let them finish their thought. He'll just kind of oh, I'm just going.
Yeah, you know what? I think with that kind of intelligence and so much knowledge, I think so many people are just forgiving of oh, just, keep talking. I want to hear you.
Of course. And that's why it doesn't bother me that much. And I'm sure it didn't bother a lot of people because it's you know what? It's Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's dropping some knowledge right now. So whatever. He can interrupt me as many times as he wants.
Yeah.
But it almost became uncomfortable a couple of times. I felt like Joe was getting frustrated.
Maybe. I haven't listened to that one yet.
Yeah. And Joe never lost his cool. I could tell there were a couple of times where I think Joe was, I don't think he was frustrated, but he was I think he may have been, I don't know, just sort of.
You know who else does that? Other than me just now interrupting you.
No, you're fine. I was trailing off. I was trying to think of the right word, but it wasn't coming to me.
Everyone loves this guy, Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yes. I see him all over the place.
He drives me crazy.
Does he? Yeah. He
really frustrates people. He invites them to be interviewed, and he talks over them. I personally don't care for the guy because I think he just likes to listen to himself talk. But I watched some other videos online too that kind of analyze him and how charismatic he is and how people can be so forgiving of these faults because he wins them over with that charisma and he means well and really he's a good guy at heart. And I don't watch enough to really know, but if he's beloved, there's got to be a reason.
Yeah.
And I guess the guy can't be perfect, so he's got to have a flaw.
and I think there's truth to that. And I think a lot of these people who you primarily see in the media too, you see them as basically this caricature of who they actually are. And that's partially their fault because a lot of times they're trying to be this bigger personality than they would be just in a normal conversation. And then also the media kind of blows it up and they're going to show you the sound bites that are the big moments. But what they say is a lot of times these people are actually just fucking sweethearts in real life. I've heard people say Gary V.
Neil.
Well, I know. I'm sure Neil is a nice guy in real life. Yeah. I don't get to know that personally because you didn't invite me to that day. I'm just kidding. I know it would have been weird. Hey, here's my buddy Stu who just really likes you. That would have just been sort of weird, but.
That's how I introduce myself. Here's me who just really likes you.
Yeah, but you work there, so that sort of makes it a little more okay. But I've heard Gary Vee's an amazing dude. I've even heard, and I never want to try to make the show political, so I'm not trying to get to this but I've even heard people who say Donald Trump, however polarizing of a character he is, and how mean of things he says. He actually wins people back because he is very warm in person, at least in more one-on-one sort of conversations.
Yeah, I think for many of us who had no idea anything about Donald Trump's personality prior to these presidential elections and then him winning the presidency, I get that because prior to hearing the things that come out of his mouth, right. you are charmed by the guy. So yeah, I mean. Yeah.
Not that it makes it all right, but that it does seem that there is a charisma to these people who may be sort of polarizing publicly, but maybe personally, people are more like, well, actually, he's a pretty good guy.
I mean, I think that is what polarizing is, right? Like, there's already half the people who really love you, and then the half that are not going to stand you, and then maybe you could actually win them over in a private one-on-one.
Yeah. I think that's just life now. Like, it's not even politics. It's just like half the people out there are going to say you're an asshole, and half the people are going to be like, yeah, I like her. I like him. He's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, that was a good
we
tangent.
digressed a little bit, but
Yeah.
you said that before we got to Neil, you had a couple things you wanted to.
Well, so the first one was just the book, because I just wanted to bring that up. And in case Neil ever listens to this podcast, I want him to know that in my podcast booth, I have exactly one book currently, and it is Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. So, Neil, shout out to you, even though I was just criticizing how much you jump in during people's conversations.
I'm sure
you're an amazing dude. And so anyway, the second one, and I was going to ask you, and I realized that this is probably a very stupid question because I didn't even know the answer in my own town. But do you know the latitude of the city that you were in when you were staying in Africa?
You know, the funny
Roughly.
I don't. You know, the funny thing is, like, I did look it up because my brother's partner had asked me, like, I just want to Google Earth, your location. And so I actually did look it up. And if I had my phone, I could tell you, but yeah, I definitely looked it up. I don't have it committed to memory, though.
So the reason that I asked is because I just learned another amazing thing from Neil deGrasse Tyson. Mm-hmm. And I forget if it was his podcast or in the book, but so the reason why the equator is the wettest place on Earth is because of the rotation of the Earth and the spin that it creates. Mm-hmm. There are more clouds around the equator because there's just slightly more gravity there because the spin, or actually there's slightly less gravity, sorry, because the spin is actually like just imagine the Earth becoming slightly more oblong as it spins across the axis. So it's elongating a lot horizontally, narrowing vertically. So the reason why all of the climates that are 30 degrees latitude north and 30 degrees latitude south of the equator are the driest and the hottest climates in the world are because when this effect of all these clouds coming to the equator, it's basically spinning these things out. Mm-hmm. So all these clouds are there and then they're spinning out from the Earth and they create this funnel and this tube that goes like out towards the orbit, and then it comes back down right at the 30 degree latitude mark, both north and south, and it slams down and it creates this, I think, wind. And Neil would probably kill me because I'm probably butchering this, but it creates this basically downward force and this downward pressure that then pushes everything out. So
I think my vague memory tells me it's anywhere between 14 and 16, but I'm just
might be
north.
In a sweet spot then.
I might be just north of the equator, I believe. And yeah, we're pretty close to the equator.
Okay.
Hot.
Yeah. No, I thought that was really interesting. And the other thing too, do you know why there's waves in the ocean?
Enlighten me, Stu.
This was another Neil deGrasse Tyson. This one blew my mind. I grew up in San Diego. Mm-hmm. I grew up surfing. I grew up playing on the beach. I was always told that waves are created by wind and by pressure changes and things which sort of didn't make sense because it always talked about like the swells come from below, the water line. So it was like, how would wind create that? That doesn't make sense. So Neil taught me, basically what happens is that the moon rotates around the Earth. Mm-hmm. It creates a gravity that moves the land. It moves the top level of the Earth. Mm-hmm. And so these pieces of land are getting pulled in different directions. And so the land is actually what's pushing the water back and forth. So think of like a bathtub. Yeah. And think of a bathtub that like you pick up on one side and then you pick up on the other side. And that's what's creating sort of this motion of the water. Like that blew my mind. Like I had no idea. I had no idea. So that was...
tons of fun tidbits from Neil.
He's the man.
Let's talk about the fear that is like related to this anecdote with Neil.
So is this, so just for the preface of the show, is this the fear that you have come in to talk about today? The beer freaks. This is the freaks part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, lay it on us. And then after you sort of lay down the groundwork, we'll take a quick break to cool down.
This is
and then grab another the next one that you brought.
So as you mentioned in your intro, like I'm an outdoors enthusiast. I do a lot of crazy hikes. And when you told me the theme of your podcast, I was like, well, I don't really know that many things I'm scared of, you know? Like I could go really vulnerable and tell you like things I'm scared of happening like with regards to my family or whatever, but I'm like, whatever. But from time to time, I'm like, I'm an agnostic, and I don't say I'm an atheist because atheist is like, I'm sure that God doesn't exist. Agnostic is like, I'm open to it, but like, I'm not sure. Maybe.
Is that the difference?
Yeah, agnostic is like, you don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Wow. Atheist is like convicted, like conviction.
Like I am. There's no way you could convince me.
Conviction that like, there's just God just does not exist.
There's nothing out there.
What a ridiculous thing.
Okay.
And so this all ties into like, you know, when you have a celebrity coming in, I'm like, what are something that like I could actually talk to Neil about that, I don't know, that won't make him run or whatever, that he hasn't been told about. I'm like, whatever. I will just tell him about something that he said in some YouTube video that I watched that has affected me. But I've pondered about like God and religion. My background is that both my parents were, well, they considered themselves Catholics, right? But we didn't go to church religiously or anything. It was like we watched the 10 Commandments and we would go to church on Christmas and Easter.
Yeah. Oh, me too.
Yeah.
They call them Creasters, I think is the term. Yeah.
So that's it. But I never like watched my mom pray or anything like that, or my dad. So I really just had no reference or context for like, what is it that Christians do? And then I had, you know, some challenges in our home life growing up, and it made me very like depressed and atheist and going, just an angsty teen. Like if God allows this to happen, he probably doesn't exist kind of thing. Got to like a real low point about sophomore year of high school. And then my friend just kept nagging me, come to my church. And I was like, yeah. No, thank you. But she was persistent. And I was like, maybe if I just go this one time, she'll just stop asking me. And I could say, I went, leave me alone.
You did it.
Well, I did. And I became a born again Christian, a really annoying born again Christian that just
started. How old were you at that
point? Sophomore year, like 15, 16.
Okay.
And went to this church and got like revived. And what I was really thankful for was that it pulled me out of this like depression. And I was just like, oh my God, I just want to share this newfound happiness with everyone. People don't know about God. It was just so obnoxious. And didn't realize how obnoxious I was being until I started seeing like my family kind of pull away from me. They're like, chill, you know?
Oh, wow.
And so then I calmed down and realized that the church I was going to was kind of culty. And I was just like, they got just too many rules. So my mom told me, hey, my coworker is actually a pastor at this really small church, only 30 people, if you want to go. And I was like, yeah, like I don't want to abandon the faith. I just want to abandon this like church.
Right.
So then I kind of calmed down. And then long story short, from that, I still started like having like my atheist thoughts again come back. And I think I found this like happy medium in my life where I was like, I learned a lot from the Bible, from what I read for the 2 years that I was a born again Christian. I found a lot of peace and happiness. But I definitely doubted some of the things I was reading in the Bible.
Yeah.
So at some point in college, I was just like looking at videos, and I lied. It's not in college because I graduated 2009, and this was a video that I watched in like 2014 or 15.
Okay. Yeah.
So
a couple years ago.
When I was saying that you've got some artwork in here that links to this anecdote, you've got these two chimpanzees looking like they're pondering life.
They're thinking. They're deep in thought.
Yeah. So Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about a thing that keeps him up at night.
Oh, he should be on the show.
Yeah.
We should get Neil.
Yeah.
That should be pretty easy, right?
Yeah. I actually know his booking fee. I won't say it out loud.
Jesus.
But I looked at him.
You can tell me off air.
Yeah, I will.
I want to know.
I wanted to book him as a speaker, and I like you didn't mention, but I'm in like the event space, and definitely looked up what he cost. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's affordable. That's good.
All right.
Well, it depends who would consider it
Yeah,
affordable.
affordable is a very subjective term.
Yeah. So these chimps here. So he talks about a thing that keeps him up at night. We share 98% of our DNA with chimps.
Yeah.
And he said, like, what are the most complex things that we've ever taught the smartest chimp to do? Sign language, move around little blocks here and there, get him to communicate with us. But a chimp is never going to be able to understand like a calculus problem or the times table.
Are we sure about that?
I mean, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know.
So they're using tools, man.
They're using tools, but like, okay, ask a chimp about God then. Like, I don't think... Well, who knows?
That's abstract thought. Yeah. I don't think they're there yet. But I mean, the timetables in a few thousand years, who knows?
Maybe
millions.
But his point being that, like, we're only separated by this 2%, but like what a profound difference that 2% is with all the capabilities we have versus a chimp. And he says when he thinks about extraterrestrials, he thinks, what if in this scenario we're the chimp, where there is an extraterrestrial out there that shares 98% of our DNA with us, but that 2% difference is what separates us from them, where a chimp, as smart as chimpanzees, like greatest achievements is something maybe our human toddlers can do. And in this scenario, we're our smartest among us could just do what a toddler in this extraterrestrial species could do. And I took that personally as like permission to embrace my ignorance, because I think about like philosophy and religion, and I think like maybe I'm trying to find an answer to this thing that I can never comprehend. But the fear here that I want to discuss is like, I guess I'm not as sure as an atheist, because atheists are like, no, God doesn't exist. Yeah. I'm agnostic, where I'm like, I'm open to a higher being. I don't know if it's what's described in like the Bible, the Quran, whatever. I'm not sure. I'm going to do my best to like do good in this world, but like, I don't know. The fear is, what if I'm just wrong one day and I die and there's Jesus and he's like, you fucked up.
I'm so disappointed in you, Marie.
Yeah. Remember when I had that Korean girl ask you to go to church a bunch of times? Like, remember when I called you into my, faith so many times? Remember when you sat on the airplane coming back from Senegal and met a pastor who was working in Senegal also, and you had a long talk and he prayed for you? Remember how you ignored all those signs?
Yeah.
Have fun in hell. That's the fear. Okay. But I just
yeah, that's a deep one. That's a good fear. I've shared that. And it just reminds me of a joke, and then we'll go to break. But I saw this one time, like anti-vaxxers. I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus here. Like if that's your thing,
I will throw them under the bus.
It shouldn't be your thing, because I have a 2-year-old. Like, you need to vaccinate your kids.
I'm a flat earther.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. At least a flat earther doesn't hurt anybody with their views. Like an anti-vaxxer is...
Well, we can argue. I think it was Ricky Gervais who says that like being dumb is only painful for intelligent people.
Oh, for the people, yeah. I've seen that joke.
Yeah, so he does hurt intelligent, or flat earthers do hurt intelligent people.
Well, and they probably halt progress too, which is a whole other thing. Like, it just slows down. It doesn't halt anything, but it slows it down. But it was like, it was like an anti-vaxxer saying, God provided me with all the tools that I needed to get healthy and get safe. And then God... Like
vaccination.
God was like, what the fuck? I gave you vaccinations.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, that's a great fear. And...
there's nothing I can do about it.
Well, here's the problem, is this is a very existential fear that like, there's really nothing... But we can talk about it, and we'll do that. So let's go grab our other beer. Let's cool down in the house for a minute.
I'm sure it will lead to other fears that I can talk about too.
Oh, it's true. I've got fears along this plane that we could spend hours talking about. What's funny is this is the first session. Generally, there's like roughly 3 or 4, and we've already gone for 40 minutes.
Nice.
It's awesome. All right, we'll be right back. Peace. And we're back.
What's up?
What's up, homies? I can be pretty thug sometimes. No, that's not true. Okay, so we're back. We've got a second beer that Marie is going to describe now.
I hope to redeem myself. Wow, the branding on this is actually pretty similar. It's got like a sun.
This
on it
beer
as
is
well.
fucking incredible, by the way.
So,
we haven't even opened it yet, but I've had it before.
I've never had it.
It's so good. You chose well for this one.
You know, credits to you for telling me about Corey's in Las Vegas, where we can get an amazing selection of beers and wines.
Shout out to Corey's. He's got some free advertising.
So this is an American wheat ale called Oberon.
Oberon.
Isn't the same name from Game of Thrones?
I think so. And wasn't Lord Oberon in the Midsummer Night's Dream by the Shakespeare play?
Might be.
I think there's a Lord Oberon.
Yeah, so this is
I don't know
Oberon
if that's-
Ale.
Yeah.
Where is this? Canned in Comstock, Michigan. Make
Bells.
sure to say that slowly so I didn't
Michigan.
call it Comstock, Michigan.
Easy.
Comstock.
Easy. Bells, sorry about that.
Not sorry. 5.8% by volume, so
Now we're back.
redeeming myself a little.
That's all right. It's like we're ramping back up.
Yeah.
Are we cracking this beast?
Yeah. Really excited for this.
Oh, no, that's a beer. That's a beer. Oh, well done.
So because it's a wheat ale, you know, my go-to like is I'm going to compare it to like a Shock Top or a Belgian.
Sure. Yeah.
Or sorry, Blue Moon. But I don't taste either. It's like I just taste alcohol.
I get a little bit of the shock top. I think there's definitely got to be some citrus in here. So it's,
Yeah, but it's mild, you know?
yeah, it is. It's because like Shock Top and Blue Moon. I mean, those flavors are fucking like artificially infused. And
Did I call it? It is self-described as mildly fruity.
mildly fruity aromas.
Color and scent of a sunny afternoon.
What is the scent of a sunny afternoon? Sunny afternoon in the Sahara Desert?
You know what's funny is like, okay, so I'm part Filipino, and my mom would say growing up, like, you smell like araw. Araw literally means like the sun.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it means like you've been out in the sun all day when you've been playing in the playground.
People don't smell good when they cook.
So scent of a sunny afternoon doesn't make me think pleasant. Maybe if you're in like a meadow with flowers.
Now, like when my dog's outside for, a couple of minutes in the Las Vegas sun, you got to let him out, do his business. Man, that dog stinks. He stinks when I bring him back in. I can't. I'll tell you, that's one of the biggest things that I look forward to, the weather cooling down in Vegas.
Yeah.
Is my dog not stinking when he comes back in.
I look forward to not stinking myself, and it affects all of us.
I think that's probably true. I mean, I probably stink. There's probably no doubt about it. I should shower more often in the summertime.
Wait, let's talk about this description on this can.
Okay.
Because I wish I hadn't read it right away, because I would have liked to describe it on my own, but I think they hit the nail on the head. It says, an American wheat ale with a spicy hop character. Like I said, it definitely felt less citrusy and milder than the Blue Moons and Shock Top. I adore Shock Top, but...
Do you?
Yeah, now that it says spicy hop, I'm like, yeah, I feel that. Like, that is...
Spicy. I had... So have you ever had the beers that have pepper, like habanero or something like that in it?
I have a lot of cocktails with peppery drinks but not a beer.
Yeah, I've had a couple and they've never impressed me until I had the Voodoo Ranger the other day. And I actually did this unintentionally because the Voodoo Ranger, so I am a basic bro. And as soon as I start seeing pumpkin flavored beers in store, I buy them immediately. And I'm pretty shocked because we're almost halfway through September now. And there are pumpkin candles everywhere. The pumpkin spice latte has already made its appearance.
So we're waiting on the seasonal beers.
There's 2 pumpkin beers out right now. One of them is the Blue Moon, the pumpkin wheat. Yeah. And I'm just not excited about that. I've had it. It tastes good, but I'm pretty sure it's 1,700 calories per beer. And it's, it doesn't, it is what it is.
Yeah. We just had a lunch at Gordon Biersch, and my coworker was asking if they had a seasonal menu coming out for Oktoberfest or whatever. And they said next week.
Next week.
So maybe
it's like the back half of September.
Yeah, maybe that's when all the new seasonal beers will come out.
The sooner the better.
Yeah, I'd like to try some like pumpkin type beers.
It's fantastic. So I had the Voodoo Ranger, and I got it because it said pumpkin. Mm-hmm. And I was like, kick ass. I love the Voodoo Ranger. It's a New Belgium beer out of Colorado. I love New Belgium. They always come out with awesome stuff. Voodoo Ranger is one of my favorite IPAs. So they came out with a pumpkin version of the Voodoo Ranger, and I was like, cool. I've never had pumpkin flavored IPA before. Mm-hmm. But what I didn't read was that there was a habanero. I think it was habanero. It was one of the peppers, one of the spicier peppers in there. And as soon as I got home, I read it on the 6-pack, and I was like, oh shit, this is gonna suck. But then I had it, and it was incredible. Somehow, like, I think the habanero was just, it was relatively mild, but it pumped up like the overall spice of the beer.
Yeah.
So it was spicy, but it was also just like spice. Like you could, like, it made the pumpkin pop.
Dude,
like,
I want to try this beer now.
I'm telling you, I would recommend it. It's one of the only pepper infused beers that I would recommend. So, so this one I can taste a little bit of that like spice, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. It's not like spicy, but it's like the spices of,
Yeah.
And it's like cardamom.
I was excited for this beer. I'll just be honest. I guess I missed my shock top. Like, it's a good wheat. It's a good wheat, but
yeah, but it's so. It tastes
you're
artificial.
basic, bro. I'm a basic bitch.
All right. Fair enough. Eye for an eye. That's no. Everyone's got their thing. Like I'll tell you, I was just giving shit to the Blue Moon pumpkin. I could drink Blue Moon, just a normal Blue Moon, all the time. I don't, because I try to drink as much craft beer as possible. I much prefer to drink, craft beer, because I think you're supporting a better business, and B, I think you're getting more diverse flavors and more people trying new things. Like, so this is another story that I'll probably tell a million times on this podcast, but one of the first beers that I ever had when I was 21, and I had been drinking since I was like 15 years old. I mean, like, just little high school parties. I know, like wild kid. Like, I'm the only one. But when you're 15, you're drinking the shit beer. You're drinking Keystone and all the flavorless beers you can possibly find. So the first beer that I ever had that actually had flavor, that was recommended to me by like an upperclassman, was Killian's Irish Red. Did you ever have Killian's?
Yeah.
It blew my mind. I was like, holy fuck, a beer can have this much flavor? Yeah. Jesus Christ. And it was incredible. And then I don't know for sure, but at one point, Coors bought them, and I felt like about a year later, their beer started to taste like shit. And granted, this was probably around the time I was like 22, 23. So at that point, I had tried many other more flavorful beers. And so maybe it was just starting to like fall down the totem pole a little bit.
Yeah.
So maybe it never got worse. Maybe I started to have more field of comparison.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that Coors took it and just fucking ruined it. I think that they just started using cheaper ingredients to try to make more profit, and they just made the beer taste like shit. Yeah,
so let's talk about that, Killian's Irish Red, because when I went to Corey's upon your recommendation, I wanted to get a variety of craft beers, and I was, again, judging books by their covers, going like, what has like interesting, cool. I picked up Belching Beaver peanut butter milk stout.
That was one of the best beers in San Diego.
So not only does it have like peanut butter milk stout, like, hey, that sounds amazing. But even like the cute little beaver and alliteration, Belching Beaver. Come on. Well done. Such a marketing nerd. But he's got this like beer in his like hand or whatever, or paw, whatever. But I went up to the cashier and I was like, hey, can I give you some feedback? And I'm sure he gets it all the time, like from everyone having their 2 cents about what they provide. But I was like, I was trying to look for a variety. I tried to pick up a wheat, a stout, an IPA, and I was looking at all the beers, and I just felt like I kept saying IPA, 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 IPA. And I said, like, love that. And to be real, like, I am currently drinking tons of IPAs. Kind of shot myself in the foot because he was like, yeah, it's all people want to drink right now, and it's all what breweries are making because everyone wants to drink IPA. Mm-hmm. So he said that, like, recently Pilsners were making a comeback.
I think people are getting fat. I think, no, honestly, like, I've even tried, I have had a search. I've had a hunt. So, like, maybe for every 5 6-packs of IPAs that I get, I'll get 1 6-pack of a Pilsner.
Yeah.
I'm on the hunt for one that tastes good.
Yeah, so let me get back to that Killing Desire. I was looking for, like, an amber. I was looking for some sort of, like, not an IPA, not a wheat, not a stout. I wanted a lager, a Pilsner. I wanted an amber. I wanted something else. But I ended up leading with a couple different IPAs because it's, like, everything they were offering. IPA, right? Mm. Which, like, I shouldn't complain. I love IPAs.
Well, but you want to see diversification.
I did. And it was just like half of their offerings were IPA. But
half is probably generous. It's probably more.
Yeah. But if he's saying that's all they want to drink, and even I myself, I'm like on an IPA kick, I'm like, all right, I'm part of the problem.
We're all part of the problem. But here's the problem. Here's what actually happens. We have ruined our taste buds for other beers.
Yeah.
IPAs just below, like, so Mark. Smells
so good.
Mark, my
your
buddy at FLM, like he controls the flavors, but he'll tell you, like,
does he have an IPA chocolate coming out?
I wish. No, we were talking with a local beer company for a while, and we were gonna do, because we have liquor filled chocolates, like we have bourbon and all that stuff. And they're incredible. Like we do it better than anybody. But we had this conversation. We were going to probably try to launch a line of beer filled chocolate, and we were super excited. And then literally like a week later, our factory announced that we were going to go gluten free. And so it was like, well, beer's out. Can't do that anymore. And I felt so bad because I had to go back to the brewer and be like, hey, all the discussions and tastings and conversations we had? Well, we're not doing any of it.
Yeah. What a bummer.
Yeah, that was a super bummer. And here's the funny thing. We still can't say gluten-free on our packaging. Do you know how, like, it is so hard to go gluten-free as a CPG company? If you want to go gluten-free, every single raw material supplier you have, so whoever you get almonds from or pecans, every single one of them has to provide you with a gluten-free certification. So let's say you get 60 suppliers between chocolate, vanilla, caramel, whatever. Every single one of them has to provide you with a certificate of gluten-free, whatever. And if one doesn't have that, and it costs money. This costs money. So there are small suppliers out there who are like, I can't afford to pay the FDA to come out and certify that I'm gluten-free. If one of them can't do it, you can't be a gluten-free company. If
you're invested in becoming a gluten-free company, could you like kind of sponsor that for your supplier?
You can. Some people do. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, some people do. We don't.
So my sister recently found out that she had a gluten intolerance. I don't even know how to say this. It's not an allergy. Is it intolerance?
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple levels of gluten. Like, so my 23andMe came back and said, or not. It's not 23andMe. We did a different one, but it
Ancestry.com or something.
It wasn't the big ones, but it was like Vital Gene or something like that. But the cool thing about it was it also analyzed your DNA to provide you diet recommendations.
Yeah.
And so it basically said that I was probably a little bit gluten intolerant.
So my suspicion is that I'm probably also gluten intolerant. But I never want to verify it because
You don't want to know.
No, I don't.
It was what we
I don't want to make an adjustment.
You got to stop drinking beer?
No.
Stop eating bread?
No way.
Yeah. Stop having soy sauce?
No.
Oh, soy sauce.
Forget it.
I didn't know gluten was in soy sauce until a few months ago.
I didn't either. Who cares what gluten is in until this whole gluten-free thing?
I think that there are people who are legitimately sick from
Sure.
gluten. But then I think that there's the other side of it. It's like, oh, I have a tummy ache.
You know, I think this applies to the gluten thing, but there's a comedian I was watching, and he was like telling people he was vegan, and he said, as part of his like comedy shtick, and he said, people always ask me if I miss eating meat. I miss having friends. So I feel like it's the same thing with gluten. It's like, oh, I'm gluten free. Like, do you miss gluten? No, I miss having friends.
Yeah, you don't get to participate in the social things when you're
a pariah. They just make an assumption about you.
Yeah, gluten's got a bad, like, not gluten intolerance has gotten a bad name recently. And I say it in jest because I do think that there are people who are legitimately get sick from gluten. I mean, there's no question about it. But I do think that some people are like, I'm gluten intolerant, so I'm gonna have to poop after this. Like, yeah, we all have to poop after this. Yeah.
I don't care. No. Yeah, I'm not making fun of it. Like, I totally get it. I'm just saying for myself, like, what a thing I never want to give up. So I just don't want to learn.
I mean, I'm not going to stop having beer. It's in the title of my damn podcast.
Yeah.
I will say they've made strides in some gluten-free beer. I think it was New Belgium who came out with a pretty good, they don't call it gluten-free beer anymore. I think they call it reduced gluten or something like that. Because it's like, they say that you can't really remove all the gluten from beer. It's almost impossible. But they can remove like 95% of it or something like that.
Yeah. So, this weed's probably no good for me right now.
Well, that's all right. We can move on to some other ones. But I did get some other interesting beer, by the way, if we need to move on to a third.
Okay.
Or even after the podcast.
I'm definitely feeling buzzed, so.
Good. Then the first one that was probably like 3% alcohol didn't slow you down too much.
Shut your face.
Just saying. All right, so let's go back to your fear because we've spent mostly like an hour just bullshitting, which is fine. I mean, that's sort of the...
We were talking about beers.
We were talking about beer. We were talking about...
Fears, okay.
But now it's time to get to the
nitty-gritty.
The nitty-gritty of what if you run into Jesus when you die?
I don't know whether you ever talk in your podcast about like overcoming fears, or is this like a looming thing that just hangs over people till they die? Whatever the prior subjects have been discussed were, but
it's not. This is going to sound bad, but like this podcast is not meant to solve the problem. It's mostly meant to identify it.
I just imagine that a conversation about fear sometimes brings into the conversation like conquering it or attempts at that. But
no, I mean. So here's my goal, and this is just providing all the behind the curtain to you and the audience. I mean, realistically, like this is, I just want to know what the fuck like freaks people out because I am afraid of everything.
Yeah.
And
Really?
Oh my God, yes. I think I've told this story to a few people recently, but like, have you seen the movie Hereditary?
No.
Oh man, this movie fucked me up. It affected me. So, I mean, you know, my wife travels for work a lot.
Yeah.
And so I watched this movie right before she took basically a 5-day business trip. And this movie, boy, it had everything. It had ghosts. It had Satan worship. It had decapitations. It had body. You know, like when like bodies move weird, like they crawl. Like you remember like The Exorcist. What was the other one? Anyway, like when they crawl weird and like their bones are creaking as they move, like so it had that. It had just a bunch of spooky shit, and so of course I stupidly watch it. I didn't think it was going to be that scary because I know that I get affected by these things. Mm-hmm. I couldn't sleep for a week after I watched The Sixth Sense. I was 11 at the time. It's the first time I ever like never slept in the first night, and then like the next few nights I slept maybe like a little bit, but this one. I'm a 32-year-old man, and I would put Jackson to bed, and I would turn out the lights, and I would like run from room to room, and I'd be like, "Is there a fucking ghost behind me? Like, is that?" So like that shit scares me. I am afraid of not necessarily what you're talking about. I think that's a legitimate fear, and I'm probably a little bit afraid of that too. But like, I'm definitely afraid of death. I'm definitely afraid of like not being conscious.
Yeah,
that's a big one for me.
I think like a cool thing that you might be able to add to the format of this podcast is maybe in addition to like their fears, just like a movie that does freak people out. Like what's a movie that scares you? And for that would be...
Provide a little context.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be related to the fear that you discussed, but it's just like a secondary part of the topic. But
I like it.
Let me quickly say that'd be like The Descent for me.
Ooh, The Descent was good.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to be good either. I was like, oh, look at this stupid, like...
You know how I knew it was good? Because it made me, like, do the, like thrillers, like, and horror movies, sometimes a thriller is more, like, psychological, right? It messes with your brain. But there are movies that make you jumpy because it just, like, boom, something comes out. So it did that for me.
Yeah.
It also made me cry at one point. It made me scream at one point. And I was like, it just ticked off all the boxes.
What did you cry? Or what part made you cry?
Well, I'm just like, oh, I think there's a part where she... Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't watched this film.
This movie came out like 10 years ago.
I know.
There's no spoiler
they
alerts.
might have never seen it. I don't know. So she has some sort of like knife or blade or something where she thinks she's going to kill one of these monsters. And she ends up like cutting her friend instead in the neck.
Oh, yeah, I remember that part.
And I was just like...
You were that invested in the characters.
Well, yeah, it's like an all-female cast.
It was an all-female.
Awesome.
Maybe that's why I didn't think it was going to be that scary. I feel like, and this isn't trying to be sexist, but like I feel like you have to have both sexes. Like if it was an all-male cast, I'd be like, what is this, a fucking frat party horror film?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I know. It was a girls' outing thing,
but it was a very good movie. It surprised me how good it was.
Yeah,
it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, so that was a movie. Because
the claustrophobia part of it too.
Yes.
Like that scared the shit out of me.
Okay, that's another real fear that I have.
And you're in an 8x8 podcast booth right now.
Yeah, that's fine. I think as long as I can stretch out my arms, it's good. Like, even in a car, I'm fine. But my brother used to, like, jump on top of me in the morning and, like, wrap me up in a blanket and, like hug me because he knew I hated it. I'd be like a burrito. But this is really embarrassing, but I would say repeatedly, like, hot, small place, hot, small place. It was just like a tick. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah. Like,
would you say that today still? Like,
yeah,
if you were.
Yeah, I'd be like, I'm just looking at, it's me saying I'm in a fucking hot, small place and I don't like it.
It would just drive you right back to it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Have you had a situation like that recently?
No, I mean, I've never been stuck in a situation like that, but it's, my brother knowing that I had that fear and he's being an older brother. And,
of course.
Yeah, and I would like kick and scream, and because he was bigger and older, like I couldn't do anything about it until he released me, and I would just glare at him. But yeah, claustrophobia. So again, really outdoorsy person, love to rappel down canyons. But I was just talking to a guy in Hawaii that I ended up meeting on a hike, and he said that he liked to spelunk. And I said, that's the thing I haven't done. I've been in caves, but I'm not sure about spelunking because some of these passageways get really tight.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
If I can't, I think I'm with you. If I can't like reach my arms out, it's like the other day I was following Jackson on a playground. He really likes me to follow him.
Yeah.
Anyway, like I should be the parent sitting on the side watching him and like letting him have fun, but I have to be like doing it with him. So I had to follow him through this like little tunnel on the playground. And I got to a point like halfway through and it was probably like I could extend maybe most of my elbow, like out to my elbow, but I couldn't extend any further than that. And I started freaking out. I was like, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here.
I think even in this space where I can stretch out my arms, the thing is that I know I can push this door open and I can leave. But if someone like blocked us in, it would be a problem for me.
Go up out through that crack in the top.
Yeah, I guess we would have to destroy this room.
Yeah.
But I mean, just the thought of let's pretend this is like a bigger elevator. Like, I guess that's a fear too if I got stuck.
It's about the size of an elevator.
Yeah, I would not enjoy it.
Like a big elevator.
But back to the original topic of this, because I know that we are definitely digressing.
This might be worse than Blaine and I. We were going off on tangents, but this, I think we've got that one beat.
It's probably my fault. I don't know.
No, I think this is what it's meant to be. It's good.
I think
enjoy it.
Talking more is. I mean, it's going to be challenging for you editing this and whittling it down.
I don't edit.
Oh.
Oh no, I don't edit. This podcast is going to be as long as we go.
That's awesome. Well, Okay, well, if you were to edit it, it would have been challenging for you to whittle it down. But I definitely, I mean, what can you expect drunk people to be doing? But digressing.
This is the funny thing. And this is what I tell people. Like, a lot of people ask me, what do I expect this podcast to become? And I'm like, obviously, there's this little piece of me in my brain that's kind of like, I don't know, maybe it could be big. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Fuck. It'd be great if it did. I'm not holding my breath on that. But realistically, this is just me doing what I would be doing with my friends anyway and recording it. So it's just fun. And if it ever turns into something where, hint, hint, breweries want their beer featured on the podcast and they want to send me some free beer, hey, fuck yeah. I mean, that I would count that as a win.
Have you seen these YouTubers have like 40-minute videos and they just have these loyal fans who like watch the entire thing? Me. I just think that as long as the conversation is interesting enough, people will just keep listening no matter the length of it. But who knows?
I mean, there's just so many people out there and they just want content. I mean, people just want...
Yeah.
They want to feel connected in a world that's fast becoming more disconnected.
Which
it's harder to connect. Which
I forgot that I wanted to like back to how you said I couldn't bring my phone in here because of like the radio frequencies or whatever. I actually think this is super refreshing. It should be a rule in my own house where like if you're gonna come and hang out with me, let's put the phones away.
It's a phone-free zone.
Yeah, this is probably the most intimate connection I've had with a human for a while. Like we're actually
it's amazing. I mean,
sitting and talking.
I will say, like, it's not, I wouldn't call it a pet peeve because I frankly, I understand the intentionality of it, but like, it is sort of disheartening when you're having a conversation with someone and they're just constantly like looking down at their phone.
Yeah.
And like you see them like laugh at something on their phone and you're like, all right, so you're having a fucking text message conversation with someone else who's funnier than me apparently because you didn't laugh at anything that I said. So right on, man. And it's just... It's the reality of the world. So I'm not sitting there going like, you're a fucking asshole, but it's like, well, now I'm having a little bit less fun in my conversation with you because I know you're not really paying attention to what I'm saying.
We for sure need to be aware, and we for sure need to get back on topic.
All right, back on topic. So let's refresh everyone's mind, including me, what that fear was.
So atheists are really convicted that God doesn't exist. I consider myself an agnostic where I'm like, I'm open because I embrace my ignorance, where I think like my limited knowledge, Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about this a lot, about how there's like an ego with humans and like we think, we're at the top of the food chain, blah, blah, blah. And we want to think we're the center of the universe. I like really humbling things when I go hiking and I see that I am much smaller than a mountain. And if you think a mountain is just a big thing within the earth and the earth universe.
Perspective is incredible.
Oh my goodness, did I just burp? How embarrassing.
Well done. It is a beer show. I think that's going to happen a lot.
Super real fear is belching my heart out
You're
on
gonna
this
burp.
podcast.
And your boss is going to listen to this and be like, Marie,
No. So
I can't believe you did that. You're a human. You just did it again.
It's this wheat ale. It makes me bloated. It's so bubbly. That's it. Oh my gosh.
Actually, it's probably the first
lady.
one. It's yes, but it's probably the first one because it's a fucking soda mixed with a beer.
Yeah.
That's probably a lot of fucking carbonation.
Excuse me, listeners.
They excuse you. You're all right.
So, I don't know. I like really humbling things that remind me that I'm not the end all be all. I'm just a human. My knowledge is limited. Anyway, so I like the idea of agnosticism because it leaves it open to like, I don't know. And like I could search philosophically the answer to this and I could never maybe be satisfied with an answer. So my fear is that I've taken a stance that I don't believe in a God, at least not the one that's like cited in these major religions in the world. But because propaganda / like influence of Christianity is # so strong, there's a little bit of doubt where like that keeps me from being as convicted as an atheist. And it's like, well, what if I am wrong? Like,
I think having a healthy dose of like, I think anyone who is totally determined that they are right, that's always bothered me. that's always bothered me. So by the way, I'm glad you told me the difference between an atheist and an agnostic, because I've been saying that I'm an atheist for quite a while. And I guess then I'm totally wrong. I've been an agnostic. I don't think that God is out of the question. I just don't think that there's any evidence that it's...
Yeah.
So, but I think that there are a lot of people out there who like an atheist who criticizes someone and goes out of their way to criticize someone who believes in a religion, and they are purely basing it on belief. And they say, I don't care. I don't care that the science doesn't say this. If an atheist is going out of their way to say like, well, you're stupid. You don't fucking know anything. And it's like, dude, like that doesn't, why are you so convicted that you have to change someone's ideology? And then conversely, like when someone who's religious is going after someone who's atheist, and like, you're a piece of shit because you don't, you know. It's like these people who are, and this is what causes wars, this is what causes violence, is when you're sure you're right and you're sure that everyone else is wrong. That's when we run into these problems. Yeah,
I think like a live and let live kind of philosophy is the best, but anyone who goes on any extreme, but it's kind of like the nature of like religion, right? Like all these major religions say that you have to go and like preach the word of God and like get people to believe. And so they have this strong conviction. And part of me actually is like, if you have a belief, why not be super convicted in it? Like, don't be wishy-washy. So I think that's actually what made me this obnoxious Christian when I was born again. Because I thought like, if I am like all in and thinking like this God is making me so happy and he's saving my life, like, am I going to be like a half-assed believer? Like, no, I'm going to be like, he fucking rocks and you should know him. And so obviously that's not the most like emotionally intelligent thing to do when and there's a way to attract people and listen and have them listen to you, but you're not going to do it by yelling in their faces. But I didn't realize that because the Bible was telling me like, you know, I was just like, oh, these non-believers are just a challenge and I really need to get them to like heed my word. But
it's a weird area, because it's like, on the one hand, you know, you think that you know better and you're really just trying to help someone.
Yeah.
If you're truly like a 100% believer and you're like, I need to make you Christian because I want to see you in heaven one day. Like, you could say that's just a very altruistic thing.
Yeah.
You could, on one hand, you could say that that's a very altruistic thing. On the other hand,
you have 5 fingers.
Well, I mean, like, I just think that, yeah, I mean, you said it before, it's live and let live. It's like, so here's why religion wants you to spread the word, is because it's fucking marketing. I mean, like, like, that's why it's built into the tenets of all of these, like, religions, is like, spread the word, because otherwise our religion's going to lose money. And
but what if you're wrong, Stu? Let's go back to this fear.
So the fear is, what if you're wrong? And what if there is a God and he's like, dude, I try to give you all these signs, I try to give you all these chances, and now you're going to go to hell. Yeah,
that is my thing, is like, so in one sense, I'm embracing like my ignorance as a human. I'm just like, oh, we'll never know. But then there's definitely like a sense of confidence in me that is like, I'm so confident he doesn't exist and I'm about to like live my life the way I want to, not without like living in fear of all these things that you're saying that I should be doing. And then I just imagine myself like faced with our creator and who's like, what now, bitch? I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, I didn't think you were real. And then he's like,
why didn't you show me more signs? And he's like, hey, bitch, I showed you so many signs.
They say like...
Didn't you see that mountain over there that I let you climb?
Yeah, they say like God is love, but he's also like a wrathful God.
But, well, that's Old Testament God.
Yeah. God is Jesus.
New Testament God's happy. Like, he's a nice guy. He doesn't even want to send you to hell.
I mean, can you separate the two though? Because they say like Jesus is God. But anyway...
I don't know.
But
I don't know. People got more. People are the ones who wrote the Bible. So I think people just got more peaceful. I think that's all it was. They didn't care about spilling blood. 5,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, they started being like, hey, maybe human life has value. Maybe we shouldn't just sacrifice everybody.
Yeah, I just going back to like me pondering on religion before, I just feel like I definitely relate more to the human sinner than like God when they say like, you know, what would Jesus do, or you're created in the image of God. I'm like, no, Jesus was born perfect. He could never sin. He's always going to be this like perfect guy. And you're telling me that I am a human that is imperfect. And so isn't my judgment imperfect? So the fact that I'm thinking that you're not real is imperfect? That's my argument, but that will not hold up in the court of God.
Yeah, I don't know. So, okay, so there's two questions then. There's two questions that I have, which you're already alluding to one, but the first one is, if there is religion, or if there is religion, if there is heaven and hell.
Mm-hmm. And we're just like talking Christian God, right? Because it's like our major
we could go into
American influence. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and that's the one I'm most familiar with.
Yeah, that's my fear. Is like the Jesus God is
right. We could talk about a lot of like in Judaism. I don't think there is a hell, right? There's no hell.
I hope not. I don't know.
Yeah, and so maybe we're all Jews, and but okay. So if there is an afterlife and you get to go to heaven or hell, and this is based on Christianity as we know it. What would hell look like?
So yeah, I think we talked about this individually. It's described in the Bible as like a fiery place, I think. But I imagine that it could be personalized, as we discussed prior, where
it's gotta be.
It is like fear-based, which is perfect for this podcast, where it's just, I imagine like repetition is just a thing. So whatever your fear is, it's just like that eternally, forever.
So your fear, so here's the funny thing is like your fear is the anticipation of this situation. So your hell would be, you could be in hell right now because your fear is this cycle of anticipation.
Yeah, I guess the real fear when I say like, what if I'm wrong? It means, what if I'm wrong and I end up in hell and my hell is like a constant relived over and over again fear, which could be anything from my claustrophobia to me.
Claustrophobia is a bad word. I hate that. I think everyone's probably got to be claustrophobic to an extent.
Yeah,
like there's probably heightened versions of it, like you, but like you're wrapped in like I'm fucking claustrophobic to an extent. Like that's fucking weird. People who say they're not afraid of heights, like. Are you afraid of heights?
I totally am. Like my hikes, I'm scared of them. Like, but
you can't not be afraid of heights. Like that's a reasonable fear.
Yeah, I think I'm afraid of mortality and what the like. Okay, there are people. So in Chicago, you can go in that building. I can't remember what it's called, but they have like a glass window where you can actually like stand in this window that pushes out and you can look down. There are people that are legitimately fear standing because they see below them how high they are. I'm not afraid of that because I'm aware of how secure this thing is. When I'm doing a hike, my exposure and like being on top of a ridge and thinking like I could fall off this thing, like then I'm afraid of how high I am. But I could be really high up in something. I could be harnessed. I could be secure, and I'm not. Like when I'm rappelling down a canyon that's like 150 feet and when I've got rope and I feel secure, not scared. There are people who would be scared with that harness and with that rope. Right.
It's all about knowledge. It's all about your knowledge. Yeah. Like, I was at the W Hotel in New York a couple of months ago, and
I've been there.
It was
nice.
It's very nice. It was very nice, but it's an old building, and it was windy. And I was at one of the top floors. It was awesome. I wasn't supposed to be. I walked in and they were like, hey, we've got this room at the top floor or like one of the top floors. Do you want it? And me not remembering how afraid of heights I tend to be, I was like, yeah, sounds great. Cool. And so I went up and it was windy and I started feeling like just a little bit of motion. And I was like, that's weird. Like I've never felt motion in a hotel room before. And I went to, I think just use the bathroom at one point, and the water in the toilet bowl was like sloshing around. And I was like, okay, that's it.
So like your hell would be you in this W hotel with a toilet.
Actually, that was pretty close to it because I can tell you I had a hard time sleeping that night either.
Yeah.
I think what people in this podcast are going to learn is basically I'm afraid of everything, which is why I enjoy talking about this, because I think it's like it's like cathartic to talk about this shit. But like it was so wild. And I will say it was not just me being like paranoid or psychotic about it because I took an elevator ride down later that night to go get dinner. And there was a guy in the elevator with me, and we were both quiet, like halfway down. And then we looked at each other, and he was like, "Did you see the water in the toilet bowl?" He said that to me.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, yes, I did. Are you fucking kidding me? Is it supposed to be doing that?
Yeah.
And I've learned recently that apparently these buildings are actually built to be able to sway a little bit.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And it still doesn't make me feel any better about the fact that I'm 51 stories up, and it's like...
It'd be worse, because if it was rigid, then it would just like break and it would fall.
break. It would
I think
break.
Aesop has a fable about the reed and the oak. And it's an oak tree, and it talks about, it's like, oh, I'm so strong, blah, blah, blah. And it's like putting down this little reed. And the reed is like, oh, okay, whatever, dude, you're so cool, you're so strong. And then this big wind blows, and the oak just like is uprooted and it falls over. But the reed, which swayed with the wind, was the one that ended up, surviving.
I think that can be said about people.
Yeah, I really like that
we,
fable. So.
Like we were just talking about. The people who are so adamant that they're right.
Yeah, they're going to be broken. But if you can sway with the wind.
And you don't also want to be the person who's like, you believe the last thing that you heard.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that person either. But I think having a fundamental curiosity to be able to say, like, I'm willing to listen to what you say. Mm-hmm. It might be bullshit, and I'm going to call you on your bullshit if I hear that it's like, if I hear a fake or illegitimate, credibility in there. But I don't mind listening. I mean, that's the thing too, is like, my son is 2.5 years old. I'll go to church with him. Mm-hmm. I don't mind that. And I want him to be able to make his own choice. And I'm still not sitting here saying like,
Please interview your son for this podcast.
One day. But like, I don't mind. Like if someone wants to sit here and talk to me about their Christian faith or their Muslim faith or their Jewish faith all day, I don't mind. It doesn't bother me. And I'm not going to try to convince you to be an atheist either, mm-hmm. or an agnostic actually, because that's a better term apparently.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to listen to it, but it doesn't mean you're going to persuade me. And it doesn't mean that you're right. Mm-hmm. But as long as we can all accept the fact that like we can have a debate, not an argument, a debate. I think people have lost that capability too. But just we're going to talk about it. And we're going to say like, but these are the fundamental things that I know, and I can cite my sources. And these are the fundamental things that I know, and I can cite my sources. And eventually, if we can find a common truth, right on. If we can't, and as soon as beliefs become a part of it rather than just fact, then you can't really have that argument anymore. It's not worth it. You can have a conversation, but you can't really have an argument or a debate. I think that's what we've lost, though, is the ability to just disagree and be okay with that.
Yeah.
I think it's a problem because people hide behind their social media channels, and it's so easy to just be like, you're an idiot. Yeah. And then walk away.
Yeah. I've actually like caught myself too, where I was really starting to feel some type of way with the other party. And I was like, you know what? I can't just delete all my friends from my life just because they're great people. And I know that from real time I've spent with them and memories I have with them. And just because they have this thing, like I really do need to, just listen to their ideas a little bit more and be more, I don't want them to then criticize me as the closed-minded person, because I think I'm an open-minded person because I'm so like stalwart and like I don't want to be the oak. Yeah, let's just stick with that. I want to be the reed.
I think somewhere between the oak and the reed. There's a point somewhere in between there.
Yeah.
You want to be the reed when you're young, when you're learning. Mm-hmm. And you should always be learning. But like at some point, once you have a good a foundation of knowledge, and things that you can truly point to as fact, and things that you can truly point to as like, this is fundamental, foundational, scientifically proven truth. At some point, you should be able to start saying like, this is what I believe, but you should never be the oak and like, you could never disprove me on this. Yeah. Because if God, so if you're an atheist and Jesus walks in tomorrow, he's still saying, no, sorry, bro. Yeah. I'm out. You're fake.
I mean, let's talk about this quickly for a second though. Like me having that fear, I don't like when people live their lives like based on fear. So like even though I have that like fear in the back of my head, I'm not living my life going, I'm gonna live it based on like what if I'm wrong. Like I'm still living out what my conviction is. But I just hope that I'm not.
It'd be like the counter to that would be like you still living like a Christian even though you didn't believe in it.
Yeah. Like I don't. So it's a fear. It's in the back of my head. I'm like, what if I'm wrong? But I don't want to live a life.
Does it keep you up at night? Like, do you ever stay up at night thinking like, what if I meet Jesus and like I can't explain myself?
Maybe not. I don't think it like keeps me up at night because I'm trying not to think of it as a constant thing. But definitely, like if I was told I'm terminally ill, it'd probably be a thing where I'm like, would I just like do a little prayer like right when I'm about to go out and be like, because apparently that works in Christianity where you can just like repent your sins in front of a priest and then like you live a terrible life for 50 years and that is enough to get you to the gates of heaven, according to some people, I guess. But
it seems like a pretty big loophole.
Yeah, and I don't like that loophole, right? So, but would I do
so
that?
Why would anyone act like a Christian until
would I do that
know?
based out of fear? Be like, yeah, I'm going to live my life, but I know that loophole exists, and as long as I'm sincere about it at the end.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing is, and that's why, like, I would totally be willing to bring my kid to church to let him decide for himself. I think church has a lot of positives. A lot of negatives.
Sure, yeah.
A lot of war that they've caused, a lot of child issues that I won't specifically talk about. But I think that morality. There's a lot of morality, a lot of ethics that are taught that are very positive things. And so, like again, I don't think that it's a bad thing to live like a Christian.
Yeah.
Or live like a Jew, or live like a Muslim, but it doesn't. But I'm also not going to follow your tenets to a T to say like, dude, it's Sunday. I got to be at church at 9:00. Like that. No, I'm just going to try to be a good person.
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably more important than me showing up at like a specific physical location to hear someone talk about a frankly very boring conversation for about an hour.
But you would do it just because of what if you're wrong?
What if you're wrong? Right. And that's like, the thing. And that's what everyone was so afraid along. I mean, and this is a conversation that we can like have at our next podcast, because I fully expect you to be back.
Yeah.
My fear is death. My fear is for sure like the loss of consciousness. But I think that I have finally found my way around consciousness.
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
It's not scientific. Well, it is scientific, but it's not like I'm solving it. It's just that infinity is infinity. Mm-hmm. So eventually we're going to have to do it again. If the universe is just infinite and it's constantly like iterating, right?
Do we have like different versions of these iterations, or it's just like Groundhog Day where it's the same thing?
No, it shouldn't be the same thing. In my opinion, it shouldn't be the same thing. It should be, you could look at the multiverse theory where it could be like something slightly different every time.
That shit hurts my brain. I'm just like, I can't imagine.
Well, but you know why it hurts? Like to think about this kind of shit is just like because we can't even imagine infinity. If you name the highest number,
I said, chimpanzee. We're the chimpanzee version. So extraterrestrial understands all of this, and we don't share that 2% where we understand.
You're 100% right about that. That is the fucking end point. Okay, we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, I actually think that that perfectly came back around to that.
Well, and this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, and I basically just talk about it into oblivion. So. So do you have any closing statements you want to make about this?
No,
about the beer, about the...
No, okay, well, I love drinking. This is great.
Fuck yeah.
I will bring better beer next time. Sorry.
No, you were you were 1.5 for 2. You were 1.5 for 2 because it was like a half.
I don't like that reputation. I like the idea that you talk about people's fears, but I also thought it would like bring into, how do we address fears? How do we conquer them? So I guess my closing statement would be like,
I'm not a psychologist.
Well, I know that's fine, but I guess what interests me with fears is like, how do we get around it? Like I do these crazy hikes and a lot of people think that I'm not scared of them because I'm doing them, but I'm like, no, I am scared of them and that's why I do them. So I guess my parting words would be like, do those things that scare you anyway.
Truth.
Yeah.
Do it. You
My
got to
job.
do it. Get
Yeah.
out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
That's the best way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cheers one more time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. And we'll
Sorry
talk
for
to
all
you.
the digressions.
No, this is what it's for.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
In this audio.
Blah, blah, blah.
And there's Marie.
Okay.
Test your mic a little bit here.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Test testicles. I say testicles.